I have been with my boyfriend for 2 years. I have lived at his place temporarily since June, and I'm moving out this weekend. I moved to his place because I sold my old problematic house last year, very quickly at the asking price. He offered for me to stay at his place while I found a new house to buy, so I didn't rush anything. Since I bought it, he has been moody and treated me like a roommate. We have little intimacy as he is tired, and in the run-up to moving out, he is silent and not chatty. I don't see friends much or go out as I've been saving lots of money for my house. We don't do date nights anymore. He lives 45 minutes away from my work and friends in a rural area, without traffic. When I had my house, we made an effort to see each other 4 times a week, splitting travel and actually doing fun things. I have struggled at his place as I am isolated and tired from the commuting. His life got easier as he was in his village with his friends and didn't seem to change his routine. His excuse is that this was not permanent. I bought a new build, which I waited months for it to be ready. He liked my house and area and agreed it was okay to stay at his until it was ready. I got the keys 2 weeks ago and started to buy furniture and move in. He didn't really help much, saying he was rubbish at DIY. I am independent and got help from friends who offered. He got huffy and then helped install my lights. On the day my furniture was arriving, he suddenly took the day off work to help. This was great, but he said if I don't need him, he will sleep. I did give him jobs to do, but he turned up late and started to control the furniture building and was very moody. I have removal men coming tomorrow at 9 a.m. to move all my stuff over, which was planned in advance. He has plans at 12 p.m. and said to me he couldn't cancel. I told him that's cool. Come over to mine after, as the removal company will be doing the lifting, and it gives me a chance to get organized. I would like him to stay over on my first night and celebrate with me. He agreed weeks ago that he would do this. Now he suddenly might not be able to. He will let me know as he has been invited out with the lads. Annoyingly, my girlfriends want to come over, but I said no as my boyfriend is here. Since I bought the house, he has become distant and moody. The closer we get to me moving out, the less committed to plans he is. I talked to him about it and he says, nothing will change. He still loves me. And we will probably spend more quality time together. But it's important that he stays with me on my first night. He says he probably will, but will let me know. I feel like an option and not a priority. I have tried to get him involved, but he has not been interested. The plan was always for me to buy a house and for us to each own a house. We have said that in the future, he will rent his out and move in with me. But we both agreed it would be once I'm settled in my house. This was discussed before I bought it. Security is important to me as I felt insecure here, as he could have asked me to leave. So now I'm unsure if he is politely ending things or is upset. I have expressed my feelings and asked him if this is the case. He says no. I suppose I am feeling insecure with the change of living together to not. He had told me to leave stuff at his place for when I stay over. He can close up, so I need him to open up even if it's bad news. He keeps joking he will have his house back and can starfish on the bed. Any strategies for approaching it to find out what is going on? Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. He came home early. Said he wanted to not be hungover for tomorrow. He commented on a TV program we watch. I joked, don't watch it without me, because I was obsessed with him doing stuff without me recently. I did say it was a backward step, and he agreed but said that's life. I wanted to buy a house and hate his area. He said he wants security, and has been in situations before where he has been left homeless. His ex-wife owned the house, and he was left with no home when they split. He said he lived in his dad's spare room till he got sorted. I understand more now, but still, it doesn't excuse his behavior. Comment 2. I understand that the plan was always for you to move out, but you have been functionally living together for almost a year. It's weird to go from that to living in separate houses again. It probably feels like you're moving backwards in the relationship to your boyfriend. That's how it would feel to a lot of people. You're going from sleeping and waking up together every day to having to drive to visit each other again. None of this excuses his lack of communication, though. He's way too old to be shutting down like this instead of expressing himself. That's a problem that needs to be addressed. Now, for the update, thanks for all the comments on my last post. Well, Things have gone sideways since then. The day I was moving, my boyfriend bailed on me last minute, said something came up with his mates, and he couldn't miss it. I was fuming, especially after I'd turned down my girlfriends for him. So, I'm in my new house, surrounded by boxes, feeling pretty alone. But here's where I messed up. In a fit of anger, I decided to throw a housewarming party without him. Invited all my friends, and it got out of hand. Someone spilled wine on the new carpet, and the neighbors complained about the noise. It was a disaster. I felt even worse when I found out my boyfriend's urgent plans were actually a surprise to celebrate my move. He'd been organizing it for weeks, and I'd ruined it with my impulsive party. He was hurt, and I was ashamed. But I wasn't going to let this break us. I apologized, cleaned up my mess, and we talked it out. He understood where I was coming from, and I realized I should have trusted him more. Just when I thought we were on the mend, his ex showed up. Turns out she's been in touch with him since I moved out, and she was the one who convinced him to throw the surprise party. I was jealous and confronted him. He assured me it was nothing, but I couldn't shake the feeling something was off. I did some digging and found out they'd been meeting up while I was busy with the house. I was heartbroken. But instead of causing a scene, I planned my move. I gathered evidence of his betrayal and waited for the right moment. During a dinner with our friends, I calmly exposed his lies. Everyone was shocked and he was humiliated. It was a scene straight out of a soap opera. But I wasn't done. I contacted his ex and told her everything. She was just as clueless as I was. Together we confronted him and he had no choice but to come clean. In the end, I kept my house, my dignity, and got rid of a cheater. My friends rallied around me, and I realized I had a support system that was stronger than any relationship. It was tough, but I'm moving on, and I'm better for it. Thanks for reading. My partner's anger outbursts were just the tip of the iceberg. But when I found out about the secret meetings with the ex, I packed my bags and left them with nothing but regrets. Is this just something that I should accept as part of his personality? I'm really struggling with it because it happens so frequently. And he says anger is just his go-to emotion and always has been. And that if I just don't react or escalate, he'll quickly regain control, apologize, and we can move on. We've been together for 8 years and this has always been present. But lately, I'm thinking more and more about whether everyone deals with this, because I don't think they do. To give a very brief example, we have agreed to meet somewhere at 2:30 p.m. He's coming in an Uber to pick me up. I am standing ready to walk outside, and at 2:28 p.m., I walk out. At exactly the same moment, I get an alert saying his Uber has arrived. As soon as I step outside, I'm met with him yelling at me. My name, you were supposed to be waiting outside? This is very loud shouting across the parking lot at me. I was with my sister, and it's embarrassing. She didn't say anything, but I know she was thinking, what the F? I quickly got in the car. I have to note that he didn't wait for me at all. There was literally no reason to yell, but there is rarely any reason for him to have these weird, brief freakouts. They are usually loud, embarrassing, lacking in logic, therefore very difficult to avoid. And over very quickly as long as I don't get mad at him, escalate things. When I got in the car, I protested that it wasn't 2:30 yet, so I wasn't late. He didn't say anything, but within about a minute and a half, he apologized for being grumpy and acted completely normal for the rest of the day. And we had a very nice day. This type of thing happens so frequently. Any minor stress usually results in him flipping out. Briefly. At times, if I'm not in the mood for it, I will become angry with him and we'll start fighting. Things escalate needlessly, and it ruins the day. I'm trying to figure out, after 8 years, how to deal with it, because I know communicating won't do anything. He promises to try to be better, but it's never changed. As for whether he does this with other people too, he does, but not as much. With me, he says it's because he's so close to me, and he's comfortable, and so it happens more. But yes, I've seen him freak out on his dad and his brother and his sister and his aunt and waitresses, etc. He has very bad emotional regulation. Does anyone have any suggestions? I can ignore it as I did today. The only issue is I'm always on edge, anticipating whatever might set him off. Today I missed his arrival by about 30 seconds. I know this sounds absurd. but I had been waiting just inside the door for about 5 minutes. It's simply impossible to be able to avoid all the situations that set him off. They are varied, and very rarely are they actually my fault. Is this something I should just swallow? I do love him. Opinions, please. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. He's hurtful. He abuses you. Do you think abuse is normal and something people should accept? Read Why Does He Do That by Lundy Bancroft. You can Google a free PDF. His volatility might seem like brief moments, but that's not really true, is it? Because you have to be constantly on edge about it. Love isn't enough, certainly not enough to be abused for. And he is clear he has no intention of taking responsibility for his hurtful behavior. You can't change someone who doesn't want to change. There's nothing you can do that will make you able to stay with him and keep your self-esteem, self-respect, and not live in an overall unhealthy, stressful world. So there are your options: lose yourself and turn into a shadow of yourself, or leave. Comment 2. Your boyfriend won't change because there are no consequences for him. He successfully trained you to shut the frick up and let him use you as a punching bag. If you object, it gets way worse. He gets to feel great about himself because he takes his anger out on you. You're the only one suffering here. It's a pleasant experience for him to take his anger out on you, so from his perspective, it's a great setup. So how much punching are you willing to accept? There's no option of being with him and not being his emotional punching bag. How much of your life do you want to spend being scared of your partner? Now for the update. Thanks for sticking around for more of my ongoing saga. A lot has happened since the last post. So, the other day, my partner threw another one of his fits. This time, it was over dinner. I made his favorite, spaghetti, but I guess the sauce wasn't to his liking. He started yelling about how I never pay attention to details. My neighbor, Mrs. Thompson, heard the commotion and later gave me that pitying look. I hate that look. But here's where things took a turn. The next day, I found out he'd been lying to me about working late. Turns out, he's been meeting his ex for drinks. I couldn't believe it. When I confronted him, he tried to brush it off, saying they were just catching up. But catching up every Thursday for the past month, I wasn't buying it. I decided enough was enough. I needed to take control of the situation. I called his ex and arranged to meet her. She was shocked to hear about his outbursts and admitted she ended things because of his temper. She had no idea he was still like this, and she was actually seeing someone else. She agreed to help me. Together, we planned a little surprise. The next Thursday, instead of her showing up at their usual spot, I walked in. The look on his face was priceless. He was speechless, and for once, I had the upper hand. I told him I knew everything and that I was done being his emotional punching bag. I moved out that weekend. My sister helped me find a new place. It's small, but it's peaceful. No more walking on eggshells. No more outbursts. I've been reconnecting with old friends, and they've been incredibly supportive. They told me they'd been worried about me for years, and then, as if the universe wanted to give me a sign that I'd made the right decision, I got a promotion at work, more responsibility, more money, and a fresh start. It's like I can finally breathe again. My ex tried to contact me, saying he was sorry and that he'd change. But I've heard that song and dance before. I told him it was too late. I'm focusing on myself now, and it feels good. Thanks for reading. It's been a wild couple of weeks, but I'm looking forward to what's next. My husband's stepmom sues for our property. But when she ends up in the hospital, I make sure she leaves this world, knowing she lost everything. I, 28-year-old female, am married to a wonderful guy, 32-year-old male. I love his dad and stepmom so much, along with his 3 full siblings and 2 teenage half-siblings on his mom's side. More on these 2 in a moment. However, she has made life insanely hard for us. Let's call her Wendy. My husband's sister, 30, won't speak to her, and only 1 of 3 of Wendy's siblings talk to her. She is very erratic and clearly has some untreated mental illness she refuses to get help for. But it's been at the expense of her kids for years. Wendy was and is verbally hurtful to them often. She will periodically disown and then crawl back when she needs something from them, usually money. Wendy also frequently rents or buys property with money she doesn't have, and then trashes those homes until she is evicted or it's uninhabitable. P.S. Her second husband, teenager's dad, passed many years ago. She's also no stranger to the law. She has been in and out of jail for years. Some of these charges have included aggravated stalking of her exes, which she still does, and child neglect. One time she left her two teens while they were still younger in a car to pursue a guy. Anyways, every time she goes to jail, we or Hubs' brother, 25, have to take care of the kids. We don't really have the means to. Also, my husband already raised his brother for her as a teen, when she more or less dumped him on her. It's exhausting because we've both had to call out of work several times to clear up this mess. The kids, by the way, aren't in school and are clearly kind of messed up from this. CPS doesn't do anything when Wendy's reported. They don't take the kids into foster care or try to find someone to watch them. She only insists on keeping custody of them because she gets Social Security for both of them on behalf of her dead husband. Anyways, she is in at least $30,000 of debt right now. And Grandma has paid bail for Wendy so many times and is well aware of how those kids live. I had also let her know as recently as 3 months ago. She most recently bailed her out. Here's the other catch. My husband is on a property with Wendy, something she coerced him to sign on at 19, most likely to save her butt if something happens. Grandma apparently loaned her the money to buy the house and wants Wendy to pay her back for her bail with its sale. Now she is harassing my husband into signing it over, which he is refusing to. He says he's been more of an adult than her in this situation and wants to be repaid for all of the years he spent raising her kids and cleaning up her mess. Proud of him. But I know this will persist. I'm not sure what to do, but I am disgusted with Wendy and Grandma enabling her. Mostly, I feel for those poor kids. This has been stressful on my husband, me, and our marriage at times. How do I manage this? Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. I'd start with a family law lawyer for a consultation. It might be worth it to get the property sold so you both have zero legal ties to her. That alone may be worth it as if taxes are not paid. Or if someone gets injured on the property, your husband is legally liable from a U.S. perspective. So finding out your legal liability and exposure is huge, so you understand the risks you face is very important. Then get your legal options. It's okay to sell the house property so you have no legal ties. Then go no contact with his mother. Change your numbers, consider moving, but get away and just leave it all behind. The fact is your husband has tried to help. It sounds like his teenage siblings don't want help, and his mother, so you can't say you didn't try. If people don't want help, there isn't anything you can do. Sometimes the best thing for yourselves is to walk away. Comment 2. We've both had to call out of work several times to clear up this mess. Stop doing this. You're enabling her. Call a lawyer about the signature/co-owner of the property. Yes, it's awful she can take the kids hostage and neglect them, but you can't help them if you're also entangled. Big picture. Consider moving away to get distance. Know that you're dealing with a 10/10ths mother-in-law mess, but she could still get worse lawyer up. Keep creating boundaries she may entrap others. You can't rescue everyone. Save yourselves. Now for the update. Thanks for sticking around. So, things went from bad to worse. Wendy, out of nowhere, decided to sue my husband for the full ownership of the property. Said he owed her for all the years she raised him. Can you believe that? The nerve of her, after everything he's done for her and the kids. We were blindsided, and it felt like a slap in the face. We had to scramble to find a lawyer, which meant money we didn't have. My husband was a wreck, barely sleeping, and I was right there with him. The lawsuit dragged on, and it was like this dark cloud hanging over us. But then, something unexpected happened. Wendy's own sister, the one who still talks to her, turned on her. She gave our lawyer a bunch of old letters and emails, where Wendy admitted to manipulating my husband into signing for the property. It was a gold mine. The court date was a circus. Wendy showed up looking like she owned the place, smirking at us like she'd already won. But when our lawyer presented the evidence, her face dropped. It was priceless. The judge ruled in our favor, and Wendy stormed out, cursing us all. It felt like a weight had been lifted, but the relief was short-lived. Just when we thought we could breathe again, Wendy's health took a nosedive. She was hospitalized, and it was serious. The kids were a mess, and despite everything, my husband couldn't turn his back on them. He's got a big heart, but I could see the toll it was taking on him. We ended up visiting Wendy, and she was different. Vulnerable, scared, and for the first time, she apologized. It was like she was a different person, and it messed with our heads. My husband started to soften, and I could see him struggling with his feelings. The kids were staying with us more and more, and it was like we were a makeshift family. They were doing better, getting into a routine, and it was nice to see them smile. But it was hard, so hard. Our lives were turned upside down, and I resented Wendy for it. Even from her hospital bed, she was pulling the strings. Then, the news. Wendy's condition was terminal. The doctor said she didn't have long. The kids were devastated, and my husband was torn up. He started talking about taking in the kids permanently, giving them the stability they never had. I wanted to support him, but the thought of it was overwhelming. We were barely keeping our heads above water as it was. In the end, we did it. We took them in. It was the right thing to do, but it felt like we were accepting a terrible situation. The kids needed us, and we couldn't say no. Wendy passed away not long after, and it was a strange mix of grief and relief. We were free from her chaos, but at such a cost. Now we're figuring out this new life, and it's not easy. But we're doing it together, and somehow that makes it okay. Thanks for reading. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.